part of this idea about energy is not woo-woo is we all have it. Have you ever given somebody a hug and it feels like hugging a rock on legs? That's one energy. And have you ever given somebody a hug where you just melted in and felt like your whole world was bigger? That's another. So I do this work called access consciousness. And we have a definition of consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. What I would say is every advancement in science has actually been preceded by an advancement in consciousness. A light bulb moment of, oh, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do this. That's consciousness. That's more consciousness, more awareness in a particular area.
So Dr. Dain is a best-selling author, is the founder of the Energetic Synthesis of Being and the co-creator of Access Consciousness. It's a framework that merges energy healing, somatic awareness, and raw inner work. After surviving intense trauma, he didn't just bounce back, he actually rebooted vitality and reality. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining, Dr. Dain. I'm so happy to have you here, packed with energy, talking about energy. And let's get into the awareness of this energy. You said in several podcasts and shows, what if energy wasn't a woo? But yeah, and that's the main question that everyone has. Let's go on that.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting part is, in biohacking, what are we looking to do? We're looking to become the greatest version of ourselves. And yet what we think we need to do is get rid of everything that we've been and done before. But part of this idea about energy is not woo-woo is we all have it. Like, have you ever given somebody a hug and it feels like hugging a rock on legs? Well, that's one energy. And have you ever given somebody a hug where you just melted in and felt like, your whole world was bigger? Mm-hmm. That's another. It's like we each have, and for me, a huge part of the energy is actually our gut instinct, our knowing that we already have. And when we apply that to how we can be with our body and recognize that our body actually has a consciousness of its own, we start to look from a different place where it's not about the mechanistic point of view of this input creates one unit of output or this input creates this specific result. It becomes what result will be created by the choices that I make, whether it's to do something with my body, to put something in my body, or also in any other area of our lives. And it's really about acknowledging that internal compass that we all have and starting to uncover it and enrich it so that our lives become richer.
But, in science, everything is measurable. In biohacking, everything is backed up by data. Can we measure that energy?
Have you ever found data that backs up a miracle?
No, because I'm not a true believer in miracles.
There we go. But here's the interesting part is, what do you do with biohacking? You're looking to create the most miraculous body possible. And what if science and the energetics are not actually as separate as we've been believing they must be? What if there's a way of expanding what we can create that may or may not have scientific backing at this point, or that does or doesn't, but what if there's a way of combining them to expand both of them?
Interesting approach. In combining those two things, don't you think that you can create glitches? Have you seen any glitches in the energy of people or experimenting that?
I've seen glitches in the energy of people where they're doing something that their body doesn't truly desire. And they're forcing it based on the idea that somebody told them that this would create this result. And what I'll always do is I'll see part of this so I do this work called access consciousness. And we have a definition of consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. So the glitches I've seen are where somebody is doing something without having communicated or gotten a sense of, will this actually contribute to the result I'm looking for? And this can apply with our bodies, but also any area of life. We oftentimes make choices that we think will lead to a certain result, but they don't. And then the difficulty is what we tend to be left with is a judgment of us, a judgment of the process, a judgment of the person who sold it to us or told us about it. But in actuality, maybe it just wasn't the right time, or maybe that version of it isn't what your body required at the time. Because we tend to think of our bodies as static organisms, but they're not. There are trillions of biochemical processes going on each second.
Yeah, each split seconds, actually. Yeah, definitely.
And so for me, there's such a beauty in science and a beauty in discovery. And what I would say is every advancement in science has actually been preceded by an advancement in consciousness, an advancement in awareness, a light bulb moment of, oh, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do this. That's consciousness. That's more consciousness, more awareness in a particular area. So for me, rather than just energy, it's actually about the consciousness and the awareness and how we can apply that to our bodies. But also, because from my point of view, the ultimate biohacking tool is to start communicating with your body.
Definitely. Proprioception in terms of science. Yes.
And this is where the interesting part is from my perspective. And by the way, everybody, feel free to disagree with me as much as you want to.
That's the principle of life.
Yeah, totally. I mean, really, it's like, I'm not, it's like we all have our own point of view, and you should, And in the classes I facilitate, I tell people, look, don't follow me, follow you. You know far more about your life and your body than I ever will. So always follow that. Don't follow anybody, follow yourself. But if I can present some different perspectives that make the journey easier or more fun or make things more effective, then that's what I'm here for, to contribute.
I love the approach. I'm a big fan of that. Definitely, I always thought, and I've have the feeling that we are energy for sure. Now, you said this is the definition of consciousness. You're probably the only human on this planet having a definition for consciousness. Scientists are fighting fighting this, and no one has the definition yet.
Well, here's an interesting thing that because as you do, we all go off on our tangents of study, and one of mine for a while has been quantum physics, as I'm sure it probably has been for you. These things play together so dynamically. But I wish I remembered his name. He basically has been saying, he's like, look, the missing element, if we added the element of consciousness to our theories of quantum physics and to our other theories of physics, all of everything works out. If we add the element of that everything is conscious, everything comes into place. And it's also this way with our bodies. Every element in the universe has consciousness. It has awareness. It has self-awareness. Now, even saying that would be, and when I give you the definition that we have of consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged, there's a perspective in that is when we eliminate the judgment in whatever area. And judgment is, this is the right way, right or wrong, good or bad, or this is the only way, or this is the solution, or this is a problem. All of those are judgments. All of those are conclusions. And when we allow ourselves to function more like we probably always wanted to, where things are not so rigid, and acknowledge the consciousness of our body and actually start having a dialogue with it, because there will be certain days, let's say you're on a supplement regimen, there will be certain days where your body, you'll take them and you'll be like, oh, I do not feel good. Well, what I found is I ask my body every day for the supplements I take. And there's a real, once again, y'all may think I'm crazy, but that's fine. It's not the first time I've heard that.
Don't worry, anyway. I'm in the same club.
Yeah, perfect. We're in the right place. It's so good. Hey, by the way, I want to let you know, when people say you're weird, say thank you, because the original meaning of weird was of spirit, fate, or destiny.
Yeah.
So they're just complimenting you. That's all that's going on. They're just acknowledging you. But there's a really simple way. If you stand with your feet together and hold something in front of you, if your body leans towards it, it tends to be like, and you can ask, hey, body, would you like to ingest this right now? And, it's a skill you develop. And the only reason for presenting it is to try to open up a bit of a crack in people's worlds where we've been doing this mechanistic reality once again, where we believe it's like putting gas in a gas tank. You put gas in a gas tank, the car runs until there's no gas, then you put more gas in. But our bodies are not machines. Our bodies are these beautiful organic organisms.
Yeah, they still need fuel.
Yeah. And it needs fuel, but what is that fuel on a daily basis? Because even we could get into a whole, we could talk just about that, because if you're on a particular eating regimen, I stay away from the word diet because your body doesn't want to die while it's eating. But, if you're on a particular eating regimen, there are often times where your body desires something else, but we won't let it have it, because even though letting it have something different might create a greater result, we won't, because we have judged this is what I must do. Because the other thing that we'll do is we'll put a lot of effort into overcoming our body's natural desires, as though it's our body's natural desires that are the problem that we're trying to overcome. But in actuality, if we can start speaking its language, we can have the sense of when that desire will create more, versus when it's just our mind and our patterns, our addictions, our those things showing up. And there is a difference, and our body will show us if we'll start talking to it.
Are you referring to traumas in lives?
There's that.
Yeah.
And there's so many elements to this life experience that we have. And to a certain extent, what trauma seems to have the effect of is reorienting our perspective, and oftentimes not in ways that are productive, not in ways that are generative of something greater. And so when we're stuck in a pattern like that, that's something where we want to be willing to, even if it's uncomfortable, be willing to choose something different. But there are other areas in which it's not a trauma response we're having, it's our body saying, I require something different here.
Yeah. In terms of neuroscience, so you think that trauma is just like an alteration of the perception from and through the limbic system, something like that creates.
Here's the interesting part is there is that, and that can be validated scientifically, that can be studied scientifically. But the interesting part is, even with all that scientific knowledge, most people have no idea how to change it.
True.
And with the tools that I have in Access Consciousness, I see it change all the time. So it is possible to change it, but it's nothing. So we have, I was going to say, very little that we have done in Access Consciousness have we bothered trying to study, because when we see it work, we know it works. So we're not interested in validating. I mean, it would be great, but we've got so much of our attention on creating. But it's an interesting thing not to have to be bound by that perspective of, if it hasn't been scientifically proven, then it may not work. I see things every day in my business and in working with people that people who function from science would say it's not possible. I'm like, well, yeah, but they just changed it.
Right. Yeah. No.
With one of our things that we have, which is called Access Consciousness bars, which is a light touch technique that's done on the head, we found you can decrease stress, anxiety, and depression an average of 87% with one session.
I'm with you on the part that science cannot explain everything. I actually went recently through some sort of experience myself. My mom passed away a few weeks ago, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's fine. It's cycle of life. But at the moment she was passing away, the right moment, the exact moment that I noted in my phone, I felt it. And she's like 6,000 miles away. But anyway, to go back to what you were saying, science cannot explain everything. I agree with you. However, in science, we use certain tools, and one of the tools that we use is called placebo. I was wondering if Access Bar, we're talking about that now that you touch, and you change 87%, you said, of the pattern. Is that the placebo effect? Could it be a placebo effect?
Well, two things about that. If it is, I don't care.
Oh, true. Yeah, good answer.
Like,
Yeah.
if I have you stare at a glass of milk for 30 minutes and it decreases your anxiety and depression, who cares?
That's
And
a
then
good
if you
point.
do it with hundreds or thousands of people and find they stare at the same glass of milk and it changes it, it's either a magic glass of milk or
Yeah.
something in that is creating some response for these people.
Yeah.
So that's
Love it.
first. And if it's like if somebody's life changes, because you're in the biohacking realm, I'm in the life-changing realm, body and otherwise, in this other direction. They're actually quite similar, interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing is we've done brainwave studies on this, and we had a neuroscientist who had been studying transcendental meditation, and we met him because I say we, my business partner and I, there were two of us there, not a mouse in my pocket. I tend to speak in the we because for me, I can't claim credit for this amazing body of work. But so we were at an event and somebody asked him to study somebody who was getting their bars run. So he did all the study, went out to dinner, came back from dinner and crunched all the data and called his team immediately. It was like 3 a.m. He's like, we need to get together now. And I went, what is going on? He said, look, this creates more change in 1 hour than 15 years of transcendental meditation. Yeah. And he said, and they're very similar in their effects. So there's that little bit of science behind
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? What is missing then is just like publication and things about it that would be nice to have. Yeah. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that is not true. Absolutely not. Don't get me
Oh no,
wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't take it that way at all.
Yeah.
And I hope, like, I love, we've got to have an open dialogue and
Mm-hmm.
discussion that involves skepticism, that involves
Definitely.
questioning. If
Yeah.
you have to sit there and go, well, it just works, that's not getting any of us
No,
anywhere.
no. We've heard so much about these things like, oh, it just works with the quantum energy, which the science behind quantum energy, when you go back to 2021, the French Nobel Prizes, that was really something. But today, like, you have so many people talking about quantum energy, they don't even know what is a quantum.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's quantumified.
True story. Yes,
Yeah.
I am with you on that one.
Yeah, I want to jump back on what you said when we started, which is really some things that I've heard a lot in people that have been experiencing uh, ayahuasca or psychedelics in general. Do you think that we are part of the universe? I mean, like we're one, or we're part of the universe on the other side, that we all contribute to the universe?
So I think we're part of the universe in a way that we can't fathom with our minds. And I would say closer to the second. And the idea that we're all one, it totally takes away the gift of you being the unique
Right.
creature that you are
Hmm.
with the life experience you've had. And if you believe in other lifetimes, all the lifetimes of experience you've had, whatever. So I would say that we are all part of the universe. We're all contributing. And I would say, once again, every element in the universe has consciousness. It actually has self-awareness. It doesn't have a mind, though. But it's like but I think an example that seems to work for me at least is if you study mycelium in the forest and you study the ecosystem of a forest, trees don't have minds, but the big trees will give food to feed the smaller trees when they need it. And if you put the mycelium there, they are not only a conduit for energy, but also nutrition, and it's all interconnected. That's how I see us in the universe.
Yeah, I agree on that. I know that trees can communicate between them, and if one as problem, several of them, random, could lead to a certain type of degeneration as well. Fully understood on that. You said something very interesting right when you started this topic. You talked about mind and consciousness. What's the difference?
Oh, everything.
Okay.
Okay, so your mind is basically like a computer that will only receive what the computer has decided is valid, and that decision, that that distinction is made by judgment. So your mind is a mechanism designed to judge. The difficulty is anytime you come to a judgment or a conclusion or a decision, nothing that doesn't match that can come into your world as a possible reality. And so consciousness is what flows through everything throughout the universe or universes.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, if you study quantum entanglements where, a molecule, if they're quantumly entangled, whatever movement one does, the other one does, but it's far faster than the speed of light. Scientists can't explain that because there's not supposed to be anything faster than the speed of light, except the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. So, maybe space, maybe consciousness is way faster than the speed of light. But so consciousness for me also, on a more practical level, is that embodied element of us that has awareness of everything and connection with everything. But what it also invites is an awareness that possibly we're far more creative and far more capable and far more powerful than we're giving ourselves credit for being. And that for me is part of the huge exploration that I'm on and that I take people on, is the exploration of, if you're an infinite being, and this is a concept I heard when I was studying spirituality a long time ago. You're an infinite being. And I looked at that and I went, wouldn't an infinite being be able to pay rent? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm obviously not. This is obviously BS, okay? But as I started exploring it from this perspective of consciousness, there's this sense of, and I think we all know there's something far greater than we've been able to access. And we think we're going to somehow get there through science, but what I found is when we explore things energetically, we'll often come up with an awareness, and then science will back it up years or decades later. So sure. Science is not necessarily the cutting edge or the creative edge. It's oftentimes trailing, and not through any fault or limitation of science, other than the very nature of the requirement to back it up in the way that's required. And also, we all know that there are so many things that we have no idea how to study.
True.
In science.
True.
Like most things.
Yeah. Well, science, the beauty of science is like it's always wrong in a way or the other. Yeah, because
so true.
Yeah, what is true today has to be actually revised tomorrow. And I would always say, one publication, 3 scientists, 5 different opinion. It's about it. And I'm coming from the science field, but this is the beauty of science. It's always questioning what is existing and changing it in a way or the other. So science may not be explaining consciousness, awareness. You talk a lot about awareness. Now, let's jump on awareness. Is it intuition? Because some people think that being intuitive is being aware, but is there any difference between that?
No, I would say intuition is a functional, dynamic part of our awareness. And to the extent that we can follow that intuition, I would call it our knowing, which from my sense, your awareness is a conglomeration of your knowing, your ability to perceive, and your ability to receive. And the interesting part about knowing is it's so much faster than thinking. And you can know things that you've never been taught. You can know things that you've never thought of before. But that also is an increase in consciousness.
You're going to have to explain me that. How does that work? How could you know things that you haven't learned? Because the process of memorizing short-term and long-term memory has to be a process through learning pattern, which is coded into the brain.
Well, there is that. That's memory.
Mm-hmm.
But that awareness you had when your mom died,
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
that something you learned how to
No,
do?
no, no. Maybe I learned it without knowing it. Some sort of, they used to call it telepathy or uh, intuition. Maybe you learn that without knowing it because no one teaches you how to use it. So you can be sensitive to it without putting an effort into it. But keep going, please. Yeah,
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
that I think that's really one of the best examples is you just knew. It
Yeah,
wasn't something you were taught. It wasn't something you were taught how to know. It wasn't something that you learned. It's just something you were aware of.
love it. Hmm.
And this element right here is primarily, I guess I would say, rather dynamically in the scientific search, we often eliminate the magic as though the world is mechanistic, as though it's linear, as though it's ordered. But and that's one way of, there's a comfort in being strictly mental, believing everything is mechanistic and ordered, and going throughout life without having to deal with the chaos of something like actual awareness.
Hmm.
There's a comfort in that, and that's not a wrongness. See, the whole idea is uh, none of us is wrong for the path we're choosing. None of us is wrong for how we're going about living our lives and structuring things the way we do. It's just that there's if you could, like, for example, a friend of mine, his father-in-law had this thing where he had a heart problem and he died in the hospital, and then they brought him back.
Hmm.
And he started out, when he was recounting the story, he said, it was so amazing. I was looking down at my body, and then they used the things, and then I felt myself come in, and I opened my eyes. And within telling the story 3 times, he said, "Oh, I was there, and it was dark, and I felt something on my body, and then I opened my eyes." He went from, I had an awareness of something beyond my reality within 3 tellings of the story to, nope, that's too far outside of my reality. I can't have that. Now I'm telling a story that matches my reality, and that is what judgment creates.
Hmm.
See, and that is literally the damaging effect of judgment is we won't allow a greater experience in. And it's okay if you don't. That's not a wrongness. There's not, but there's so much that can be gained that will make the day-to-day moments of our life, but also how we create with our bodies. There's so much that can be made greater by embracing a bit of a possibility that there's a world that exists right around us that we just haven't been able to understand. And to a dynamic extent, our mind has been limiting what we allow ourselves to perceive as the nature of reality.
I've heard you said a couple of times because what you just explained for me, I would just say like, well, this is being present, but you said several times that no, it's not being present.
No, I'm sorry. I would say that is being present,
It is.
and there's a more malleable, like when we talked about that with you having that awareness with your mom. Yeah, that's being present as you, exactly. But that was allowing something in that had never been in your experience before as a new part of your reality, a new part of what you can experience, a new part of what's possible. And that's really all this is about.
Yeah. So we jump back to some sort of a framed consciousness, like you said at the beginning, an operating system like a computer. Uh, what is corrupting this system in this humanity that we live in today, in the world we live today? Not many people are ready for what you are bringing or what you are saying.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. More and more all the time, but so true, you know. And like I said before, I'm like, feel free to call me crazy, no problem. I'm having a lot of fun being alive,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
and I see a lot of other people that do too. And that really, for me, is it would be one thing if I started getting happy and creating a successful life for myself, but I shared it with other people and nobody else could do it. But I see thousands of people around the world that I've worked with over the years that their lives are fundamentally different just by opening up a bit, but also having some tools to access to make things easier and more fun.
Yeah. You said our body whisper,
Yeah,
correct? Yeah. And but most of us we live in a static state. That's an interesting concept.
true.
Why is that? Why most of us live in this static state, and why many people don't listen to the body whispering?
Well, it's something that we've been entrained to and entrained out of. I don't know about your parents, but mine didn't listen to their bodies. They never
No.
taught me how to listen to
No.
my body. They didn't even know they had bodies, It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
True.
and what we do is we tend to entrain to that which we grow up around. It's funny because you can explain that from an energetic perspective. You can also explain it from a neuroscientific perspective with mirror neurons and that conversation
And
about how
but
we can, yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but if you try to explain it on the neuroscience perspective, there is the noise also that could be an interference of the concept itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, here we are, and in answering the question, it's like it's what we have been trained to, and it's what we see all around us. But even as large as that, at least it's what we sense and perceive all around us. Because the thing is, we're fundamentally energetic beings, which we talked about before, and energy not being woo woo. But it's like, have you ever called somebody and knew they were sad before they said a word?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
again is a level of awareness that's
True.
beyond the mind, because the
Mm.
mind can't understand that, but we are having that experience and we're having that awareness. And it's also where one of the things that I talk about in Access is 98% of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are things you tend to pick up from other people, because we're like big tuning forks. We're like big radio receivers. And so if you've ever spent much time around someone who is sad, you notice you start to feel sad yourself.
Hmm.
No matter
But
what you do to try
yeah.
to shield yourself, no matter what you do, well, that starts out as our awareness. We're aware of this energy of sadness. We're aware of whatever that is. And from the energetic of that awareness, it then turns into the physiology of sadness in our bodies. So most things start with the energy and then transform into the physiology.
But yeah, 100% with you. But this is called uh, neural pathway. You call them energetic pathways, then, which is the same.
I'm going to say they're very similar.
Okay.
And here's the difficult part is that science doesn't seem to be able to get involved until it has a physical pathway, a neural pathway. If we can ourselves address it when it's still in the energetic realm, then we don't have to turn it into the physical realm.
Makes sense. So tell me, jumping back to what you said, like calling somebody because you felt that it was sad or something's happened or whatever. Why are we connected to some people and we're completely disconnected to others? Should we be all connected?
That is a great question. And here's the weird part is that we're actually way more connected to way more people than we want to know. Like let's
Sometimes
let's
it's true.
let's take COVID as an example where a collective world went in whatever ways everybody did, but we were all aware of all of that, which is when the world and you'll notice anytime a huge part of the world or a huge part of the world or a geographic part of the world that you might be connected to takes a particular point of view, it seems like it's in everybody and everywhere, and it seems almost impossible to dislodge from. But that is the quote unquote power of the collective. They talk about a mass consciousness. I see mostly a mass unconsciousness, but it's because we don't have the awareness, and unconsciousness is basically unawareness, the choice for unawareness. But to answer your question, if to the extent that we can recognize that, because like what'll happen is you'll be around somebody, and we're talking about sadness as an example. You'll be around somebody, and there will be a moment where you go from you being you, whatever that is, however you were before you got into that moment, into that space with them, or calling them, or physically, it doesn't matter. And this is another clue that you can be 6,000 miles away and talk to them and still have the same physiological reaction.
Right.
It's not physical, it's energetic first. But if we can recognize that moment where we kind of go, where we go from high to high plus, and we can go, oh, who does that belong to? Is that even mine? No. Oh, okay, well then let me let that go.
So it's mainly a training that people should go through in order to access that.
Well, that's part of it. It's the awareness that this even exists.
Right. Yeah.
That's hurdle number one. Okay. But any of us can look in our lives and notice where when we hang out with happier people, we get happy. When we hang out with sad people, we get sad. Or also, one of the things I like to ask people to do is look back over at one time in your life where you knew not to choose something, even though it checked all the boxes, and the benefits appeared to outweigh the consequences, and you chose it and it turned out as bad as you knew it would. That's another example of our knowing that goes beyond cognition, that goes beyond our mind. That's consciousness, that's awareness, that is beyond the mind. Because the mind would say, it checks the boxes, do it. And if we can function in our lives more from that awareness, and don't discount the mind. This is not, I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's broaden how we use it. Let's say, okay, it's got this, but what does the rest of me have as awareness that I can add to this to make some different choices?
Beautiful. I like it. I like that. Are we going to communicate by frequencies?
We're fully capable of it.
Right.
Well, yeah, if you look at, I'm going to use the example of your mom again and what occurred. That was a frequency of something.
Oh, definitely.
Right. Yeah. And so in that beautiful moment, you were willing to allow it in, and okay, here's this. I think we're fully capable of communicating that way.
I was on meditation, actually. It happened. I was in a deep state of meditation, and that suddenly happened to my mind. So I was kind of, was a bizarre feeling. I've never had that in my life before, but I agree. It's some things that I can't explain, but I accept, and I live with it. Tell me, Dain, what made you who you are today? Where are you coming from? I know the pattern of suicidal pattern where you came from, the story, but could you explain? Because I don't think you woke up one day and you say, oh, I feel the energy of people and I can help them.
Oh, that is so true. In fact, it was just the opposite. I always thought I didn't get energy, and I would be around people, and as I went through chiropractic school, I was around a lot of people who were exploring, energetics, metaphysics, spirituality, and there were lots of people who were like, oh my God, this is so intense. And I'd be sitting there looking at them like, what is you are making this up. This cannot be real, And so, I didn't think I got it at all. And what makes me me? I don't know. Ever since I've been a little kid, I've always been a dreamer. I've always.
That's a good thing. That's a beautiful
I think so. It works for me. I wouldn't want to live without that. It's part of what keeps me going. But as a kid, I experienced a lot of meanness. I experienced a lot of physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. But still, I kept searching, and I kept doing my best to be a kind person, and I kept doing my best to contribute to people. And it wasn't until I'd gone through chiropractic school, I'd been introduced to spirituality, so I was studying a lot of that, and also I was studying business things and psychology things, and but I got to a point after I'd been unhappy for almost 3 years. For the first time in my life, I had given up hope, and that was at 30 years old. And I said, universe, you got 6 months. I literally set a date to end my life.
Wow, that's
I
very
was,
courageous too.
well, and really, if somebody gets to that point and they're doing it from total presence, they're done, and either something changes or I'm out of here. And so a week later, I came across an ad for Access Consciousness, something I'd never heard of before. And it said, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And I was like, you have no idea what my life is like. I was so angry. Like, my life is pain, suffering, and glory. Get out of my face. Anyway, I saw the ad a week later. And, if you love something or hate it, there's something there for you. I called and I had a session of Access Consciousness bars, this thing I was talking about before. In an hour and 15 minutes, I went from depressed and suicidal with a date to end my life to, if it can be this glorious to be alive, I am in. I went from depressed, suicidal, and angry about a lot of things to grateful to be alive. And that thing that I got, this experience of it, which I'm a big fan of us experiencing things, because there's only so much we can understand.
Right.
And everything else has to be experienced. And this experience let me know that what I had known was possible from the time I was a little kid actually was. Because I grew up mostly around unhappy people, mostly around judgmental people, very few people who had a sense of possibilities, but I never gave up hope. And having this just changed my world. Well, in addition to that, so I would do this once a week. I would trade chiropractic and get bars. And each time I would get a session, the lady that was doing it would give me a tool to use that week. And what would happen is, whereas before, after any period of lightness, it eventually disappeared and I was back in a heavy state again. Every time I would use this tool, the lightness would come back. And I went, oh my God, not only can I have this space, this sense of the magic of being alive that I don't know most people can even understand, but I hope you can. I hope you've had it at some point in your life where you just knew something, that it was just beautiful to be alive. And so not only could I have that, but every time it would want to go away, I would use the tool and it would return. And I was like, wow, there is something powerful in this. So that's why I've been doing it for the last 25 years. I've been part of co-creating it. And we have, over 10,000 facilitators around the world. And they're sharing with people these tools and ways of changing things that create a similar effect for them too.
Yeah, definitely. Is there a link between being a chiropractor and what you do? Because we know another one that does that too, and was a chiropractor too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I like to see chiropractic as a bit of a gateway drug, because the thing is, if there's
sense.
a lot of us, that want to contribute to people, but being an MD is not the route that sort of matches what we're about. So there's this somewhat acceptable, slightly weird, but not too weird now route that you can take. But when you're there, you can't, from my perspective, it's like, you can't engage with the miracle that this body is without starting to want to explore more miracles and more ways of creating things, which, from my perspective is what you're doing too. You're like, okay, let's find how to create the miracles these bodies are capable of. Mine is just a different path.
Yeah, I'm a true believer that the biology that the extent of the biology are have no limits. It's just like we don't exploit them properly. It's pretty much the same principle. Yes, we're limitless, definitely in agreement with you on that. But mushroom does the same thing.
Actually, it doesn't.
No, tell me more.
Well, it can. Okay, so I want to talk about the thing that you said about the agreement about being limitless. We both agree on that point. And yet, if we don't add the element of consciousness and our choice to it, we can never access the limitless.
Right.
Because our bodies are not machines. We can't there is no limitless robot, and to the extent that we add the consciousness to it and the awareness that gives us, we have a totally different space from which, and a different perspective from which we can access actual limitlessness. And so, and I hear that a lot. Like, I'm really grateful for what mushrooms or, microdosing of whatever can do for people. And the difficulty with that is there's not an element. You make the choice to take it. That's where your choice is. But after that, it's not about your choice as much as it is up to whatever the either biochemical or energetic interactions are that are going on there. And so let me say this: there are a lot of people that have the point of view, you should do my thing. My thing is right. I don't have that point of view at all. My point of view is do whatever's going to work for you. Okay, so I want to reiterate that, because I don't want people thinking I'm stepping on their toes, like I'm superior. No, I am not. No. Okay, I'm a person just like you, and we all have our journey to take. But the thing about mushrooms that I found is, without the tools to back it up, and without the exposure to the space that is opened up and a way of dealing with that, it doesn't necessarily create the sense in a person's world of having more choice, more freedom, and the ability to create a greater future.
Right. Well, make total sense. Yeah. Again, yeah, good point. Good point. Very good point. I want to finish this podcast with you by asking you 5 questions. Very fast. Yeah, 5 questions, rapid fire questions. So, first one, you ready?
I'm so ready. I'll try not to talk so much. I'm ready.
All right. Well, no, you know what? You don't talk too much.
Oh,
you talk just right. It's actually very pleasant to have a podcast with you, because you state your point, and you put the argument behind it, and it's clear. Sometimes you get lost with too much explanation, but not with you.
Thank you.
Let's go with the questions. What is one scientific truth that you think we will laugh at it in 10 years?
Wow. That's going to take me a moment.
Take your time.
I'm going to have to pass on that for now. My brain just went totally blank on that.
Okay. Maybe consciousness.
Well, there was something that started there, and then the light went out. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Next one. What's one energetic practice that you think could revolutionize psychiatry and neurology if we just give them a lab?
Asking questions and functioning from question, rather than believing in the sanctity of our previous judgment as a valid way of understanding or creating reality.
Very good. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm with you on that. If you could inject one new program into humanity's collective operating system, what would it be? And not AI, please.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Actual consciousness, not my eyes are open, therefore I'm conscious. No, the actual consciousness, which is I function not from a state of judgment or rightness. I function not from fighting against. I function from looking for the possibilities that are available for all of us and creating a world that includes all of us and invites us all to thrive.
Nice. Okay. Is that free will?
I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Complete this sentence. Rebellion is...
awesome.
I love it. Yes. I had the same answer on that. And the last one, complete the sentence. Being you is...
the greatest gift this world has ever seen.
Bravo. Yes, definitely great words as an ending for this podcast. Thank you so much. Can you tell us a bit where people can find information about you? What are you up to? And if there is anything really new that you want to share? it's the moment. We're going
Oh,
to share everything in the caption after, but
cool. Thank you. Yeah, you can find me at drdainheer.com. And on there is an audio called Waking Up Miraculously that is my gift to you. You can also find me on all the socials. On Insta, it's Dain Heer. On Facebook, it's Dr. Dain Heer. I don't do much on Twitter, but on there, oh, also YouTube, Dr. Dain Heer. And on YouTube, I've got hundreds of videos that are my gift to you that have tools, that have some inspiration. Please just check it out. Just check it out. You'll know if there's something that,
Google it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There you go. Go Google
Yeah,
and check it out.
go
That's
Google
right.
it.
Let's go do it.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of information, really very interesting, and everything you do is actually very interesting. It's really in advance, to be honest. It's probably not accessible to everyone yet, but I love it. You know, being disruptive is what makes the world better and more exciting for the future.
Truly. And if we don't start having these conversations now, then they're never going to happen. But
I agree.
if we can start now, then later a lot more people are going to go, oh, there's actually some value in that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being my guest today. I truly appreciate it. It was a great pleasure having you.
Thank you. It has been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.